Thank you all very much. Welcome to everyone at the meeting, and welcome to anyone who's watching us on YouTube. I go to item 1, which is the minutes, to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of May on pages 3 to 8 of the agenda pack. Now, technically these are for accuracy, but there is one point I want to raise. So do members have anything to say? Okay, so I was having a discussion with our clerk because on this agenda we don't have an item for action points, and very often at our meetings we have something that we want to bring forward in 6 months or a year's time. So is it okay to after the minutes add in action points? And the one action point I want to raise today is the progress on the training for safeguarding and the question into DBS checks that our legal advisor was going to look into. If you could chase that up. Thank you very much. Item 2, apologies. We have Ray O'Callaghan, Jacob Morton.
Yes, Chairman, we received apologies from Councillor Duffield, Councillor Morton, and Councillor O'Callaghan, and we have Councillor Kiddle-Morris, a substitute for Councillor Morton. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 3, declaration of interests. If you have any interest to declare, please do so now, or if it arises during the meeting, to raise your hand then. Item 4, urgent business. I'm not aware of any. Item 5, non-members wishing to address the meeting. Welcome all. Item 6, member development. So thank you, Alison, for coming today to present the report, which is on pages 9 to 27 of your agenda pack. And we have Rory here, the Democratic Services Manager. Sarah isn't here, who are happy to answer any questions. So I'm going to ask for a proposer and seconder for the recommendation before we do the questions. Thank you, Taylor and Peter. Thank you. Over to Alison.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, everybody. Okay, so members will be aware that a member training and development survey was carried out during the summer to assess the needs of our councillors. A total of 18 responses was received, and I want to highlight to you today the key findings from that survey. The key insights were that, number 1, councillors emphasised the need for flexible training schedules, particularly evening sessions and online options to accommodate busy commitments. Number 2, some experienced councillors expressed interest in supporting new members through mentorship programmes. Number 3, councillors preferred a mix of face-to-face and online sessions with a strong emphasis on high-quality trainers. And number 4, evening sessions were seen as essential for flexibility. From the results, the following core development areas have been identified as priority areas for training, which include effective ward counsellor, community engagement and casework, handling casework and residents' needs, council finance, budgeting and auditing, council operations, procedures and ethics, equality, diversity and safeguarding, planning, licensing and ICT skills. It is recommended that a further training programme for members would offer flexible learning through both online and in-person sessions with recordings for flexibility. Number 2, focus on high priority training areas like community engagement and safeguarding. Number 3, make use of and link to the already produced local government association materials to complement training. Number 4, establish mentorship programmes for new councillors. Number 5, implement regular feedback to improve the programme. And number 6, ensure sessions are delivered by subject matter experts in their field with evaluations in place. It is proposed the following timelines: spring 2025, Launch core training models with flexible options. 26 to 28, refine and expand based on feedback. In conclusion, the survey has provided valuable insights, and these recommendations will help shape a training programme that is flexible, comprehensive and tailored to the needs of all councils. We welcome members' feedback and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. Over to the floor. Mark.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I think a couple of things. I understand, I think I'm right in saying that the budget for member training is about 7,000 a year. Is that correct? 7,000. Okay, so that's about £140 per member per year. Is that adequate? I'll go on because I think the training can be broken down into three distinct areas. At the beginning of every cycle, there's an induction. So you've got new members, you've got some members who require a refresher. So I think the induction in the last start of the last cycle was about a week. There was a continuous week of induction training, which covered a lot of subjects. There's then the continuation training, and you referred to safeguarding, and safeguarding is something that needs to be reinforced continuously. And then there's training for quasi-judicial committees. And don't forget that some of our committees are what they term quasi-judicial, and that's planning, and it's standards procedures, i.e. standards hearings, are quasi-judicial, and let me think, the other one is licensing. And those need to be continuous and available for members of the public to inspect, in my opinion, because otherwise, if you go to a planning committee and you don't know that everybody on the planning committee or the licensing committee has had the requisite training and it's up to date, because things change in both those spheres, that needs to be available to those members of the public to see that that training is being carried out, and those people who are making that judgment in law in a lot of ways is actually up to date. So I'll leave that for the moment, Madam Chairman, and I'll come back later if anybody else has got any more.
So, yeah, you're absolutely right, Mark. I mean, the 7,000 budget has traditionally always been enough. We do have a small reserve that is used primarily around the 4-yearly induction, which is a week long. But there is a little bit more in the budget than the 7,000, which we've carried forward if needs be. The majority of the budget is traditionally spent around planning and licensing, which are the two sort of quasi-judicial regulatory, which you require specialist training that we don't have, so it's brought in at a cost. Most of the other training that we're looking to do will be provided by people like myself, housing managers, sort of area specialists, which obviously will keep the cost down. So we have got some more licensing training planned for later in the year, I believe. And they're both sort of licensing and planning we try to do at least on an annual basis, because things change.
Thank you for that, Rory. I think there's a lot of people who sit on planning need that, and any substitutes need that, but that's not something that generally is available or should be available to the wider membership of the council, because they don't actually need to have that training. So you can narrow it down a bit, and then if you're on licensing, then you need just the licensing panel members need to have that training. So I think that's right. What concerns me is the method of delivering overall training. I note from the report that we've got a lot of members saying that they would mentor or they would support newer members, which is gratifying to see. But that's something for new members. Induction training is important, and then mentoring to get them through the first year. And don't forget, it's a bit difficult to have a rural member mentored by somebody who comes from the middle of a town, because the difficulty is you've got different problems, you've got different attitudes, you've got different way of life, and in fact, which affects residents in a different way. So it would be important to make sure that those people are paired properly. I agree with the way you're looking at how you should deliver this training in terms of the split between face-to-face, which I think is valuable. However, with 7K budget, it's very difficult to deliver face-to-face training other than the way that you've described, Rory, which is planning and licensing. But the rest of it could be online and should be online. And I think that should be things like safeguarding training and other, I have made lots of notes here, but community engagement, meeting procedures and that sort of thing, that could all be online if it's necessary to give continuation training for those. But equality, diversity and safeguarding responsibilities, that's something which should be reinforced probably every year to all members, or maybe 18 months, I don't know. But that's something we should be, and I think it's done elsewhere like that, that you should have that sort of training, because it does slip your mind. Say, how do you safeguard? What is safeguarding, and what's it needed for, and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, I'm quite happy with the report, and I would agree with the recommendations in that report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, absolutely. Oh,
I'm just interested about the people who are delivering the training. I mean, for instance, some councillors are particularly good at casework. Yeah? Would it be possible to find some incentive for them to share their knowledge and how they work it? Because some people have just got the natural gift. Roger, for example, he does a lot and he's really well respected in the community.
I think you're absolutely right, Peter, and I think that's where the mentoring comes in. We've got a lot of councillors who have a lot of experience, have been members of the council a long time, and I think as a council we probably don't make enough use of that experience and that knowledge. And the other thing, just to pick up on that, something I'm really keen on is making use of the LGA, Local Government Association facilities. There's an awful lot of information that they have, training for members. And a lot of it is free as well, so we need to make more use of that and push that out and allow members to use that as well.
Was especially with committees like licensing and planning, having our training records publicly available. So where on our website we obviously have our privacy notice, our attendance record, our declarations, everything else, could we also have training? And not necessarily just for those committees, but we could have, you know, all of the training that's undertaken, because we keep a log, don't we? When we undertake the training, members obviously that have attended, it's noted. So I think if we could just have that on each councillor on the website as well, I think it would just be beneficial.
Yeah, there is the facility against each member's through our ModGov system to add individual members training. It's something that we haven't done in the past, but yeah, by all means, we certainly we can certainly do that. That's relatively straightforward for us to do.
Yes, thank you, Taylor, for doing that. I think that's probably a good idea because, as I said, briefly touched on before, it's important for members of the public to know that the people making judgment in planning or licensing know their stuff. They've been trained properly and it's up to date. I mean, the planning is changing like there's no tomorrow. I know licensing will probably change as well, and probably. The other thing that actually concerned me about training is, as a previous chairman of a standards committee, and I've done a hearing for a complaint made against a fellow councillor. There's no those people on that panel need training, and if they're not trained in what they can do, how they conduct that hearing, and what punishment or not punishment, you know what I mean, can be meted out to somebody who transgresses the code of conduct, then I think that needs to be looked at as well. At the moment, governance and audit encompasses that particular function. And I'm not sure those people on either the governance and audit at County Hall or here are particularly up to speed with if they had to have a hearing against a councillor, whether they're actually trained in that continuously, or any 3 members to make up a panel are trained. So it's something to bear in mind. In fact, for heaven forbid that we do get a thing that goes all the way through past the monitoring officer and the independent persons, and then they decide to put it to a hearing panel. But it needs to be looked at and to say, well, actually, how do we do that?
Because we had gold standard charter for training. We had a really good mentorship scheme. I mean, I trained under the LGA here with more experienced counsellors, and we did that for a year, and in fact I still mentor one of those original people. So my request is that we don't let it slip too far down the priority list, because the more training we have, and even us very aged, experienced counsellors, as Mark's pointed out, things change all the time. Everything about planning changes, even safeguarding stuff changes, partly because members are far more often out there on their own. And we know out in the community there's a lot more mental health needs, etc. So it's having that alertness of managing it. Some of that's being met through the Mindful Towns and Villages scheme, but I think all members should be offered something similar. And just going along with that, we're in the middle of refreshing the website for Breckland Council. Under that website sits members' pages. I don't think they're used, I don't use them very often. If I need a form to call in a planning application, I'll go there. So I think this is something that needs looking at as a resource, because we need to be saving time, energy, money, stress, everything. So if we're streamlining one system, let's fall in under that as well. Is that okay? Does that make sense, team? Good. Yes, that's all I had to add. The one query I've got, Alison, is in the recommendation, it says that this report, if it's approved, be used to develop a new member learning pathway, which I understand that. But who's going to do that?
Yeah, it's going to be the DEMS team.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
to give you a little update, we've
But
just
you need some member input.
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at.
We've just appointed a new DEMS service graduate who's starting in a couple of weeks.
Right.
A chap by the name of Ben, and one of his key projects is going to be around member development and looking at the training plan. So it's already programmed into our DEMS work program.
Okay. So my suggestion to this panel is going to be, we can't all do that because we're the panel. But would you feel comfortable if, through Rory and his team and Alison, we send out an invite to members if they want to, just a small number, to work along with the officers to develop this? Because at the end of the day, we've got to own it, haven't we? Is that okay? Right. So if we don't have to alter the recommendation, we'll just minute that. Yeah. Okay. So based on that, Alison, do you just want to read out your recommendation again for the tape?
Of course, yeah, thank you. So the recommendation is to note the findings of the Member Development Survey conducted in 2024 and agree the core principles suggested in this report be used to develop a new member learning pathway for 2024 to 2027. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've had a proposer and seconder. All in favour? Unanimous. That recommendation is approved. And item 7, to note that the next meeting will be held on the 28th of November. Remember, panel team, that we can be called to stand up at any time. And I think from some of the meetings some of us have been at recently, we could be called up to stand on some quite major issues. We'll give you as much notice as we can, especially for those of you working with families. And on that note, thank you very much.